Hello, fight fans. See, Adam, Mike, fights with friends. Everybody, please hit that like button if you like everything boxing, fighting, combat sports. Make sure you're subscribed and don't forget to double tap that notification bell so you're notified every time we drop a new video or go live like this last weekend. It was incredible. We had ONE FC, we had the Tyson Fury fight, we had UFC Orlando. Enough about me. Let's get into this. So we're going to go through all of the fighter pay, all 28 fighters for UFC Orlando. I'll try not to make this too long. I find this very interesting. I hope you guys do, because it did take a decent amount of time to do this video. If not, that's what I do. Okay, looking at this first page, we have 6 fighters that have 12,000 show. Of that, we have 3 fighters that did not get a win bonus. Of those 12,000 show money fighters. That's Istela Nunez, Marcelo Rojo, and Genaro Valdez. Each of those guys got $4,000 for their sponsorship agreement. This is the agreement that they only wear UFC approved outfits, which are right now made by Venom. Of course, before that it was Reebok, for a total pay of $16,000. You can look at this a couple different ways. And the layman may look at this and say, hey, $16,000 for one night of work, that's a pretty good payday. I don't get paid $16,000 a day, and I don't know anyone else that gets paid $16,000 a day. I don't know anyone well that's not a fighter that makes $16,000 a day. I will say that. But that's a very easy way to look at it. Obviously, you guys know, you guys are MMA aficionados. You know how much work that goes in to get that $16,000. You got to pay for your trainer. You got to pay for your manager. You have to pay for your gym fees, your travel. All of this leading up, you hope to get the 3 fights that the UFC promises you a year. So we'll go with that, because the UFC promises you 3 fights a year. Doesn't mean that you get them, but it means that they have to offer them to you. And that's why these end of the year shows are so stacked. Let's go through that for $48,000 though, like I said. An independent contractor, which a UFC fighter is. Personally, I am I'm not a UFC fighter, but I am an independent contractor. So I know a little bit about what goes into this. If you're at work and you make $48,000 a year, it's, somewhere around an average median income. In most places of the United States, you're probably not starving to death. You're probably doing all right. You could be doing better, but you're doing okay, right? When you go to work, though, if you're a cashier, do you pay for the check stand? If the check stand breaks, do you pay for that? Do you pay for the scanners? Do you pay for the shopping carts, the floor, the building? You don't see where I'm going with this. No, of course you don't. If you work in a warehouse, you don't pay for the pallet jack, for the forklift, for the semi-trucks that move the things along. I'm an independent contractor. I do pay for that. I do pay for my own pallet jack. I have to pay for and maintain my own box truck, etc. And a fighter has all their expenses that we talked about. So that $48,000 has to stretch quite a bit further. And now, of course, we do have some write-offs that are beneficial compared to what an employee has. We get to write some of those things off on taxes. This might be boring for some of you, but I'm going to quickly explain to people that don't understand exactly what a tax write-off is. We'll make it short and simple. You spend $48,000. You make $48,000 because you had 3 fights. You're Marcelo Rojo. You had $48,000. You had $25,000 in training expenses. So this is your manager, your gym fees, things that you can write off. This is not including the food. This is not including your outfits, any apparel. There's a lot of stipulations, things that you can't write off. You can write off travel for work, gas or mileage. You can choose whichever one's more beneficial to you, or just whichever one's easier. So say you have those $25,000 in fees. A lot of people think, oh, well, you're like getting $25,000 in benefit. No, you're not getting that at all. What you're getting is the government says, well, we're not going to take our average percentage of your entire salary at 48,000. What we're going to do is we're going to minus that 25,000. We're only going to tax you on 23% of it. But the 25,000 is still gone. I think a lot of people think with a write-off, it's like you get the money back. Like it's like free money or something. It's like, no, it's a benefit of whatever tax bracket you're in. And if you're in a $48,000 tax bracket, just off the top of my head, I think you're probably around 24% tax bracket, roughly 24% of 25,000, a quarter of that. So, maybe $6,500 tax benefit, and that could be on the high side. I won't go through that with every salary. I just wanted to set the stage for that so you guys understand exactly what an independent contracted fighter is. So these guys, they might be their living expenses might be 23,000, and I don't think that that's too far off for a lot of these fighters. Now, a lot of fighters that are making less, a lot of managers, trainers, sometimes I've even heard gyms, although I think it's kind of rare, take just a percentage of your pay. So when you're making less, you're paying a lot more, and then the manager, your trainer, they have incentive to watch you succeed because the more money you make, the more money they make. So that could be beneficial, for both sides a lot of times, but it's especially beneficial for fighters making $48,000 or less a year if you don't get those 3 fights. We'll move up. The other three $12,000 fighters: Nathan Levy, Francis Marshall, Yasmin Uruguay. Congratulations to all you guys. You got another $12K with your sponsorship pay. You got $28,000. You're actually starting to make like kind of a livable wage, I think, after your expenses. Do the math: 56, 66, 76, $84,000. If you're able to fight the 3 times a year, if you're paying, like I said, around $25,000 a year in training expenses and stuff, maybe you have 60 left to live on. You're still surviving, but you better hope nothing gets in the way of you getting those 3 fights. On top of that, you better win every fight. Good luck. Good luck with that, by the way. And to backtrack for just a moment, for all these 12,000 pay fighters and everybody who didn't win, if you lose 3 fights in a row in the UFC, you're probably going somewhere else and making even less money. So I've heard of fighters actually getting to the point to where they're paying for fighting, they're paying for the opportunity. Unfortunately, even in the UFC, I've heard some fighters saying that they've paid more for their camp, management, promotion, etc., than they made in the cage for an entire year, which I don't know how we fix that, but I feel like we have to. Okay, moving on. Emily Ducati got 14,000 to show. I don't know why she got 2,000 more than these guys. I didn't do that much research. I didn't go that deep into it. Matt Schnell, this one I was surprised by. We'll go real quick. Go up second from the top. Matt Schnell, $30,000 to show. He did not win. $5,000 sponsor. $35,000 total pay. I feel like this is really low for the amount of fights that Schnell's had in the UFC. He always puts on exciting fights. I feel like a lot of people are looking forward to seeing him. I don't think they put him in the 3 spot on a huge fight night card, on the main card nonetheless, if they didn't think that he was worth putting there. If they did, that's their fault. And you're going to pay him $35,000. That's not great. The $30,000 to show, yeah, if you get 2 or 3 fights, especially you get to 3 fights, you're getting $90,000. You're probably able to get your expenses and, live a reasonable life. But a fighter, as we know, 10 years is a long career. After that, you got to find something else to do. So you got to hope you make a lot more money than $60,000 or $90,000 a year before all your expenses. Philip Rowe, congratulations on his win. Also very surprised on this one though. 20,000 to show, 20,000 to win. 4K sponsor just because of where he is. 44,000 in total pay. I was a bit surprised by that. Not as surprised as I was by the Matt Schnell fight, one, but we'll move on. Sorry, I want to page ahead for a moment. And I'm not going to redo this entire video, so if that bothers you, I apologize. Scott Holtzman, last fight of his career, he fought Clay Guida. As we know, he did not win, even though he was a favorite. 40,000 to show, 5,000 for the sponsorship, 45,000. It's a little change in the pocket before he goes on to do something else, I guess. Jonathan Pierce, 22,000 to show, 22,000 to win, 5 sponsor, 49,000. I'm not real surprised on that. I don't think Jonathan Pierce is exactly a household name. We'll move on to Nico Price, who, as far as MMA fans, I think kind of is a household name. Correct me if I'm wrong. He's had some spectacular finishes. I think a lot of people love to watch him fight. 40,000 to show, 10,000 to sponsor, 50K. I wouldn't have been surprised to see him a little higher, maybe even as high as like 65,000 to show, 65,000 to win. But there we go. Where I'm surprised that say Kyle Dawkins makes more than him. But we'll go up next. Mark DeCaze and Jack Hermanson both made the same, 50,000 to show a piece. Surprised about Mark DeCaze because of how long he's been in the UFC. Very surprised about Jack Hermanson. Been a guy that's been, consistently ranked in the top 5 there at middleweight. I know it's not the deepest bracket, but you can tell both these guys have been around for a bit because they're getting the 10,000 sponsorship, which means they have over 5 fights, I believe, in the UFC. For 60K, I'm just a little surprised that it's that low. Also a little surprised that Matthias Nikolai is making more than them. The next one up, 30,000 to show, 30,000 to win. You can see he has less than 5 fights, I believe, in the UFC because of this 5,000 sponsorship. So 65,000. Dawkins, I just mentioned him, 60,000 to show. Really surprised by that. Apparently he's good at negotiating a contract. 5,000 for the sponsorship, 65,000. For where he is in his career, how many fights he's had, that's probably fair. Some of these other fighters should just be getting paid more. I'm not saying he's making too much. Darren Elkins, I'm flabbergasted. If that's his real pay, if they didn't make a mistake, Darren Damage Elkins, please retire today and go do something else. You were taking way too much damage, way too much brain damage. They better have given this guy a bonus. I know he didn't get fight of the night because it ended up going to Stephen Thompson and Kevin Holland. But $10,000 for the sponsorship fee because he's had a lot of fights in the UFC. So 70K, that to me is just, it's atrocious. It makes me sick, to be honest. The blood that he spills for us, the amount of fights he's had in the UFC, that he only made 70,000. And when you're getting cut that much, I don't know how many times you're able to fight a year, but 3 seems like a stretch. We'll move on to Tai Tuivasa, who I'm surprised is still at the sponsorship rate of 5K. But this is a guy that's came real close to challenging for a title. I mean, he just fought Cyril Gane. He's fighting the top dudes out there. And it's in the heavyweight division. These guys usually get paid more. Big bangers. The risk is huge there. The fact that he only got 75K to show and 5 to sponsor, that might make me almost just as mad as Elkins. That's atrocious. He's only getting 80,000 paid. Go box. Tai Tuivasa, go box. I don't know what your career situation is like. I'm not trying to sabotage the UFC and stuff here, but if I was personal friends with Tai Tuivasa, I would tell him, dude, this is not worth it. For $80,000, you may be able to fight 2 times a year on the regular over your career. You're going to make $160,000 a year. You're talented enough. You can go make $160,000 a year before paying all your own expenses somewhere else. All right, Angela Hill. moving up, she has had a lot of fights in the UFC. I think probably somewhere around Elkins. I don't know exactly how many fights she's had in the UFC, but 50,000 to show. I feel like that should be a little higher, especially she's pretty popular. She's pretty popular. I think that should probably be double. I think she should probably be 100 to show, 100 to win. Put her at 200,000. So honestly, I think she's getting paid half of what she's worth or half of what she should get. Put another 10,000 on there for the sponsorship pay. Let's go to that for a moment too. You got fighters like Angela Hill, Tai Tuivasa, and Darren Elkins. They're going to get more than $5,000 and $10,000 from sponsors because they're big names. There's a lot of eyes on them. Angela Hill, the shorts, the back of her shorts, the back of her ass, it's worth more than $10,000 a fight. Trust me. 110,000. I'm glad she won, so she ended up with kind of, more of a respectable pay. It's maybe more around what she deserves for her show, I assume. I don't like the win bonus anyways, though. I feel like you're penalizing a fighter. I don't think anybody's going out there and trying to lose, and you're going to continue to take half their money. I think that's kind of ridiculous. I know there's another side to that, but we'll save that for another time. Eric Anders, similar situation. I believe he's had quite a few less fights probably than Angela Hill, though. And he's getting 60K to show, 60 to win, 10 to sponsor. He ended up with 125,000. Actually, I guess we had some wrong math on that. Should actually be 130,000. But 130,000 total pay. Overall, that's probably about right for Anders. So I'm not going to spend a whole lot more time on that. We'll go into the final leg of the card here. And we'll go to Brian Barberena. This guy is excitement in a bottle. And that's why I'm glad he's getting paid $140,000 to show. That's probably fair. That's probably about where he should be. And he was in the co-main event. He's making them a lot of money. On the sponsorship side, he could definitely make more than $5K off the whole Bam Bam gimmick and everything. If he was, decided to play that more, and if he got paid for it, he probably would. But like I said, there's the five right there. Roman Dolidze, next guy up on the chart. 50 to show, 50 to win. I'm not sure what this fourth column is here. I copied and pasted this off a payoff side, and then I put it in my own graph. So I'm sorry, I don't remember what that is. I don't even know that that's part of their pay. I think that might be something accidental. Anyways, sorry about that. Roman Dolidze, I believe his real pay, disclosed pay, we'll say it's at least $105,000. So 50 to show, 50 to win, 5K. I'm fine with that. He's got less than his 10 fights in the UFC or whatever. Now I'm very confused by this next one. You got Clay Guida, and that's where I'm thinking maybe commissions. This is just disclosed from the commissions, by the way. This isn't things that I went out. And so any mistakes on this, I don't take total credit for all of them. But you got 70K to show for Clay Guida. He's been around forever. At least give him 100 to show. Come on. And 100 to win. So let's give him 210 out of the gate, or 200. The sponsorship money should be 20,000. I don't know why it says 5,000. That could be a typo from the Orlando State Athletic Commission, who is the one who discloses these. Or there's some kind of funky way that I don't understand, like when you re-sign a contract or something. I really hope Clay Guida is not only getting 5,000 for sponsorship money. I don't think that's the case, but at least he gets 145 grand. I think he should probably get, like I said, 200, at least 205 grand. We'll move on to the next guy, though. Michael Johnson, 80 to show, 80 to win. We all know he's been around for a really long time, especially if he wasn't able to win this fight and he was put in the underdog situation, which is a huge financial benefit for the favorite. It's a huge disadvantage for the underdog. If you're expected to lose, you're expected to not get your win money. I don't think we talk about that enough. But Michael Johnson, he did win as the underdog. So he got his 170K. I think that should probably be around 200,000, like I said with Clay. But if he had not won, same thing with Clay, you're talking about 80, 90,000 for each of these guys. I think that's really underpaying. And then this next one, I think is going to blow your guys' mind. Look right up, fifth from the bottom, Sergey Pavlovich. Fairly new to the UFC. I know he's on a huge streak. I mean, he's got 6 knockouts in a row. But 200,000 to show, man, I would want who is negotiating his contracts. 200,000 to show, 100,000 to win. That's pretty good. I know the win money is not the same as the show, is like these lower fighters, but the higher you get up there, your win money, as you can see, doesn't always, doesn't start to match your show money, which I think is good that fighters are getting more of a show money. So that balances a few things out. But $355,000 for Sergey Pavlovich, man, he put on a show. He knocked out Tuivasa in under a minute. He earned that money. Still very surprised he's getting paid so much more than everyone else on the card. Fourth highest payer on the card. That's a fairly good payday. And these top guys, I'm pretty happy with that, especially compared to what this was maybe even 5-10 years ago. Guys were not making this. A Sergey Pavlovich was not making $355,000, and that's when we move up to Big Mouth Kevin Holland. You can call him the Trailblazer, you can call him Big Mouth, whatever it is. Guy gets $20,000 in sponsor money is what this says, anyways. He's had a lot of fights. He's done a lot of favors for the UFC, including stepping in on late notice. In that last UFC pay-per-view. He really got screwed on that. I think he was had a pretty good chance of getting a win if he had his original opponent in Daniel Rodriguez. We all know what happened there. We don't need to go into it. He got smashed. He gets $300,000 to show. I'm not upset about that. I'm not upset about him making that much. I think that's fair though. I don't know what his win was because they didn't show it. I believe it was 100,000 just because I think that's like kind of generic for the 300,000 show money bracket. Gets 20,000 for sponsorship. So he makes $320,000 or more. I think that's fair for Kevin Holland. I don't think he's overpaid just because he's done so much for the UFC. He's put his body on the line so much, including going 5-0 in 1 year. One of only 4 fighters ever to do that. So, good for you, Kevin Holland. Whether you decide to fight after this or not, that's a good chunk of money to put in the bank on the way out. Rafael dos Anjos, former champion, former world champion. I don't know how long that lasts, that pay. If that $300,000 reflects that, he is getting paid the same as Holland. Like I said, I don't have a problem even with Kevin Holland making the same as former champion Rafael dos Anjos because he is just, I put a lot of respect in Kevin Holland's name. Obviously, I put a lot of respect on RDA's name. The guy's been around forever. They fight whoever they tell him to fight. He's been a former champion. He's been in a lot of tough fights. This one, he ended up being a big favorite against Brian Barberena. Won pretty easily. Once he got it down to the ground, which I assumed if he took it to the ground that, it would be his fight, but walks out of there with at least $410,000. Good job. Good job, UFC. Good job, RDA, whoever does your contract and everything. I like everything. I think is fair with that. Same thing with Stephen Thompson here at the top. $350K to show. Not quite sure why he's getting $50K more than RDA. I have a feeling it's based on when he initially came in the UFC because he had a good contract being 50-0 as a kickboxer. He has challenged for a title twice, but he doesn't have that former champion stature. So 350 to show. Man, did he earn that 100,000 to win. Excuse me, I don't know why I was saying I don't know what the 50,000 is. That's the fight of the night bonus. Now I feel like an idiot. That's performance bonuses. So Kevin Holland and Stephen Thompson both got $50K. for Fight of the Night bonuses, racking in over $500,000 for Stephen Thompson. Congrats, dude. You deserve it. You've earned it. You've been in the combat sports world for a long time at 39 years old. I know he plans on fighting a lot longer. He's done a pretty good job of not taking damage for the most part, outside of, a few fights. He got tagged a couple times by Woodley. Of course, the knockout loss to Anthony Pettis, which I considered kind of fluky, but he did take that big shot. I wouldn't fight a whole lot longer. I wouldn't fight at all anymore if I was him. If I just got another $515,000, that means he's probably had some similar paydays to this. He's probably got a pretty good stash put away. He lives humbly in Simpsonville, South Carolina. The population's there like 25,000, super low cost of living. But it's his right to fight for as long as he fights. And as a fan, of course, I continue to love to see him fight as long as he's competitive. But that's the whole breakdown, guys. 28 fighters. I know that was long. I know it was long-winded, but I hope at least some people enjoy that and watch that, because it took a little bit of work and research to get this all together. But let me know what you guys think. Do you agree with me on some of this fighter pay? What do you think about the lower fighter pays, the upper fighter pays? Maybe you want to talk about how this compares to other promotions. We could do a whole nother video if you guys want on that, because I would love to do that. I can talk about fighter pay for, quite a while. Fighter pay and fighter safety are huge to me, because these guys, they put it all on the line, blood, sweat, and tears, and, possible brain damage, everything that goes with this for our entertainment. So it just makes me feel a little better sleeping at night knowing that they're financially compensated well. It is their choice to be in there, of course. But let me know what you think down there in the comments. As always, I love you, I respect you, and I'll see your fine asses next time.